I just want to welcome everybody to the Keep the Promise campaign panel that we're putting on. We're just trying to raise awareness of the UAW Keep the Promise campaign and support it. We're going to have a panel with 5 different speakers here today. I'm going to go ahead and read an introduction here I wrote up, and we'll get to the panelists. The UAW launched the Keep the Promise campaign over the summer after Stellantis announced they would be walking back commitments made during the contract negotiations last year, namely large investments that were to be made in Belvidere. Stellantis management has claimed that market conditions are not conducive to these investments at this time and must be delayed, conveniently until after the end of the contract. Stellantis claims this despite the fact that Ford and GM haven't faced the same issues. Since the launch of the Keep the Promise campaign over the summer, conditions for Stellantis UAW workers only deteriorated. There have been company-wide layoffs affecting thousands of workers, from whole shifts at Toledo Jeep and Warren Truck to low seniority workers company-wide. With all of the uncertainty at Stellantis, workers are worried, and the company knows this. They made attempts to influence workers to vote no on potential strike authorization votes by sending out mass calls telling workers that a strike would be illegal and that Stellantis is well within its right to delay these projects. Stellantis workers have been unsure of our leverage in this fight, as evidenced by the recent change of course from International, going from rallies to town halls at many locals, something almost unheard of in UAW history. Multiple locals have taken successful strike votes, and there are more in the works that you'll hear about today. The campaign and the threat of a strike has put pressure on the company, leading in part to the immediate resignation of Carlos Tavares at the beginning of December. To support the Keep the Promise campaign, the UAWD Organizing Committee launched a parallel support campaign led by myself and Ben Hinsey. We set out on this support campaign with the goal of building support for the Keep the Promise campaign more broadly among Stellantis workers. We also wanted to reach out to workers and find out where they are at and how they feel about the Keep the Promise campaign. Since launching the support campaign, we have been in touch with members across Stellantis who are using our flyers to get accurate information to their coworkers. We'll hear today from them, as well as local leaders who are on the board and building towards strike votes in their own locals. With that, I'd like to introduce our panelists. First, I'd like to introduce Leticia Lopez from Local 12.
So for me, with product commitment and investments, as far as the contract goes, that's something that stuck with me. I felt like, Stellantis expects us to show up to work every day. They expect us to show commitment and quality within our build. And we should expect that to follow through with their commitment, with what they've put in the contract as well. So I feel like when we allow them to establish product cancellations and reallocations, as previously outlined in the CBA, we are establishing a new past practice for them to burn us within the future. Our future is in our hands. We show them every day when we show up to work that we plan to keep the future within our brands every day with the quality that we build. So I feel like it's only right that we demand Stellantis to honor their commitments to us. As a union worker, our labor is our power. And if our membership authorizes a strike, that does not mean we're going to go out on strike today. It simply gives our bargainers a tool from the toolbox, and it allows them to be able to go to the negotiation table and have power and have leverage. If we do not authorize a strike vote, then we take away the power to fight and we take away the power to negotiate. Does it mean that we're going to go on strike today? Absolutely not. But if we lay down and we don't continue to fight for our commitments, then we're just going to allow Stellantis to establish a new past practice, and they're going to burn us plant after plant.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you very much, Leticia. Those are some very powerful words. And we're just gonna keep it moving here. So our next panelist we have up is Luigi Jokai from Local 51. Luigi, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and just go into your remarks?
Hey, sorry about that. Hi, my name is Luigi Jokai. I'm vice president of Local 51. I'm also the Convention Appeal Committee member for Region 1 for the Convention Appeals Committee for the International UAW. I started off in 2010 as a summer vacation replacement. I was rolled over as a Tier 2 post-bankruptcy back in 2010 and went through several contracts. The 2011, which was the just out of bankruptcy contract, 15, 19, and the most current contract. Speaking on the strike authorization votes, just kind of jumping right into it with both feet. I think what our membership needs to understand is that without the power and the threat of a strike, we really have no additional leverage to force the company to do what we want them to do and to make them uphold these commitments. We had the dreaded Tier 2 contracts in 2011 because we had no strike authorization, which was imposed on us by the government as part of the agreement between the United States government, the taxpayer, and Fiat at the time to give the loans to Chrysler. We got the right to strike back in 15. We didn't have to use it, but in 19 they did use it on the GM side. And you can see in those contracts, even though there were still divisions and different sets of tiers, that they progressively got better, and they got towards the best in 19 when you were actually able to strike when GM went out. Our best contract in my almost 15 years has been the most recent 2023 contract from a monetary standpoint. The billions of dollars that were gained through the right to strike. The company, you will never get a multi-billion-dollar company whose bottom line is profit over people to give you what is right and just without that threat of a strike. It's not like you can just negotiate your way into it and say, hey, you should do this and you should do that, because their bottom line is their bottom dollar. When you can interrupt or threat to interrupt their productions, that is when you will get the company to come to the table. And we got them to come to the table. And part of it was product commitments in these different plants, reopening Belvidere, and guaranteeing that we had future product to build throughout the life of that contract. I really wholeheartedly believe that we would have never passed this contract had those things not been on the table. So I think we need to keep that in mind. I know people, they get scared at the word strike, because it hurts us financially. But it's also going to impact the company way more than it will us. And also to keep in mind that an authorization doesn't mean we're going to go on strike, but you have to have some kind of leverage. And this is the best time to have that leverage when a majority of the plants in this corporation is in between model year builds. Their model years have been pushed out. And this is, prime time to really get them to come to the table. And if you look at it right now, had it not been for this pressure campaigns, Tavares would have never resigned. Who's going to give up millions of dollars in bonuses and just their, monthly wages? Just willy-nilly kind of just said, you know what, guys, I'm done. I'm not going to get this extra couple million until 2026. I think I'm going to step down. The pressure campaign and the rallies that we had and the panels that we're doing like today that were, member-driven, worker-driven, this is what got Tavares to finally get the hell out of there. And you can see that in the structure that they've begun to do now with the new Stellantis Corp. You have Elkin restructuring everything. You have a multi-person panel, and they really understand finally what we understand, that this thing was getting driven straight to the ground. And had the members and our leadership not put this pressure campaign on, he would have never, ever resigned. Because you remember the message from the company, everything is fine. It's just the market. It's not Tavares. And the message consistently was, listen, the only problem is Tavares right now. It is him. He bears this responsibility. He has to go. And we got that. We got that to win without the threat of a strike yet because of the votes. But we did threaten that, hey, we will do this and we will do that. And if you look at the company's immediate reaction, it was something phenomenal. They're robocalling people. They're, filing lawsuits against different locals for exercising their union rights. So the reaction from the company was one of fear and terror that usually you don't get, which they were trying to instill on us, and we were able to flip it back on them. And I think we need to keep that in mind, that you have to keep the pressure on, because pressure bursts pipes. And that's the only way we're going to get this company to start doing what's right. We need these products where they're at. We need people to come back to work. And, unfortunately or fortunately, it's always going to fall on us, the worker, to do the brunt of the work. We got a great leadership in place that will support us, but ultimately we are the foundation. of this entire thing, and we have to give our leaders a good base and the right weapons that they can go with, okay?
Thank you very much for those remarks, Luigi. It was very powerful. All right, and let's go on to our next up next, we have Romaine McKinney III from Local 869. Romaine, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course, no problem. Good afternoon, UAWD family. I'm Romaine McKinney III. I am the UAW Local 869 president. Almost 10 years now, back and forth. I'm a 31-year member of the UAW Local 869. Is one of the biggest reasons I hold it so near and dear. I think you heard some very good comments from two of the other panelists already. I don't want to even double down on that. I'm going to tell you today, if need be, I'm going to speak to results of a strike vote, okay? The results for Warren Stamp and UAW Local 869 is almost $8 million because of the strike vote. That strike vote also brought to Warren Stamp and UAW Local 869 a local contract that we have not had in 21 years. These types of, and I don't want to call them threats, but availability to strike means something to this company. They don't mind wasting money when it's on corporate type greed. A CEO who gives himself 50% increases in pay, laying off members. None of this was done to benefit us. It was done to benefit the company. So I'll make it brief, but the strike vote works. If you have any question about whether or not it does not work by the time this meeting is over, I will leave my phone number. I will give you almost a blueprint to getting your local very much engaged. Okay, I don't want to take up too much time. I will be on the call the entire time. I am working at the local right now. That's why you do not see me. I'm dirty, but I will be on the call the entire time, and I will get back on it as need be to clarify or give information at plenty of entrances. Okay, thank you.
Alrighty. All right. Thank you very much, Romaine. I want to say you were brief, but you said what needs to be said. We really do need to recognize the weight that a strike authorization vote carries and the power behind it. All right. So next, we're gonna move on to one of my favorite people at my Local 7, Dawn Corporan. Dawn, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and go into your remarks as well?
Good afternoon, everyone. Of course, there's a million things that I can say, and with the time restraint, we have one focus, and that is to talk about how we can make a difference. My name is Dawn Corcoran. I am originally from Local 1700. I was a TPT for 30 days, and I then went over to Local 7, where my plant was down for retooling. So I had to put myself in the labor market. Local 7 picked me up. I then became also a member of the Local 889, which is MLM. I am still am working with MLM. Of course, we have a big problem. And we are not, we're used to these big problems. And keeping the promise is what we are going to stand by. We're going to stand up to, the decision making that Stellantis thinks that they can just run over us. I can say that it's a significant impact, even with our local communities and the economy when it comes to, the layoffs. They're not finished with these layoffs. However, I did notice that we did have some return people that were laid off. They did come back. And I know that's just not by design. That's because we did what we had to do, which is we rallied. We got the message out to show that Stellantis is, they don't have the last say when you have a contract that you agreed, that we all agreed to hold you accountable, for what is in that contract. Now, everyone had a lot, you guys nailed it, and coming behind you guys is like, oh my God. But I can say that it is not our issue, it's a company issue. And we need to make sure that we stand up for what is right and what was promised to us. Strikes work. They work. It may take, like Mr. McKinney said, it's cost effective, no doubt. But I can tell you that we are going to get exactly what they promised us. And I can just close by saying that this is what solidarity looks like. This is what solidarity looks like. Thank you all for having me.
Thank you very much, Don. I really appreciate you taking a little time out of our busy Saturday to be here. So we will be working later today.
In a couple hours.
In a couple hours, yeah. Alrighty, so now I want to move on to a guest I'm really excited to have here from Italy, from FIOM, Fabio. I'm gonna try not to mess up the last name. Fabio Di Gioia. All right, awesome. You want to go ahead and just introduce yourself and go into your remarks as well?
Yes, for sure. First of all, thank for having invited us to this panel. It's absolutely exciting to hear from your voice how the campaign is going, what problems are you facing, and make something, how to say, a physical solidarity, a touching solidarity for once. So please apologize if my English is not exactly perfect, but as Bruce Springsteen said, I've learned more from a 3-minute records than I've ever learned at school. So I will not describe you the precise situation here in Italy because we are almost in the same turmoil, but I would say that the fights that we are doing here in Italy are having a first important effect. All the 6 main trade unions present in the Italian plants put aside the division caused by the Marchionne era. Now we are all united and we are leading our fight all together. The common goal to save Italian automotive industry is much more important than our different visions about past times. On November 29th, we have made a strike all over Italy, and we have had rallies in all Italian cities where Stellantis is present. And we also, the week after, we also brought many workers to the national strike against that was held against some decision taken from the Italian government about 2025 budget law that does not meet the expectation of workers and lower classes. While I'm speaking, a permanent picket is being held at the gates of Pomigliano plant near Naples because yesterday Stellantis announced 96 people will be fired off. 96 people belonging to a service provider who is entitled of vehicles handling after end of the line. It means drive the cars to the compound and load them on lorries and trains, okay? At the moment, we have not any significant reaction after our strikes, but we are accustomed to these. It's the dynamics between US and Europe are very different. Also, the rules of engagement for strikes are extremely different. So we are not worried by this absence of reaction. Our bigger expectation for the future is to have Italian government starting to take care seriously of this issue, scheduling a meeting in Rome with the Prime Minister and the Stellantis president. Solidarity between Italian and American auto workers, it's important. Of course, in trade unions culture, transnational solidarity has always been important. And now in this world that is more and more interconnected, it became absolutely necessary. We keep believing that common problems must have common solutions. and UAW must be proud of the fact that was the first trade union to give clearly a name and surname to the main Stellantis problem. As a matter of fact, Carlos Tavares' policies has caused some problems on both sides of the ocean. Worsening of blue collars working condition, massive outsourcing of white collars activities, extreme cost reduction that led to a poor product quality, relationship with the dealer network at its worst, no clear decisions about the mission of every single brand, suicide pricing policy, and a huge amount of money in the pockets of shareholders and top managers. Now tell me, what else do we need to organize workers and turn the tide? Let me just spend 30 seconds with a story, a tale coming directly from Pomigliano. A daughter of one of 96 workers that are fired off wrote a letter to Santa. She wrote, "Please, Santa, this year I don't want any present at all. I'm seeing my dad going in the bathroom and crying. So please, Santa, this year bring me back my smiling dad." I think that it is very significant. Thank you very much to everybody, and good luck for your campaign.
Thank you so much for that. And I just want to say, Fabio, I really appreciate you being on this call today, because I'll say international solidarity for me is incredibly important and something in America, especially, we do not talk enough about. All right, so we're going to move on to our last speaker before we go ahead and move on to Q&A here. I'm going to pass it off to Ben for that, but we're going to introduce Martha Gravatt here from Local 869 as well. Martha, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and jump into your remarks?
Hi, thanks. Yes, my name is Martha Gravatt. I'm a retired member of UAW Local 869, but was a member of Local 122 for 23 years until what was then Chrysler closed our plant. It's an honor to share the platform with other fighting Stellantis workers from the UAW and from Italy. I began a tool and die maker apprenticeship in a non-union factory in 1983 and finished 4 years later. In October of 1987, I quit the non-union crappy job and went to work as a die maker at Chrysler's Twinsburg, Ohio stamping plant. It's a plant I thought I would retire from, but in 2009, Chrysler declared bankruptcy. Oftentimes, bankruptcy is used by companies to squeeze concessions from union workers, which eventually translates into bigger profits for the capitalists when sales pick up. This was the case in 2009 at Chrysler and General Motors. When we were asked to vote in favor of contract modifications in 2009, we were not given an inkling of an idea that our plant would close. There was even language in the contract modifications saying there would be a viability study on the Twinsburg plant, and that language, we were told, would keep our plant open. We took concessions under that assumption. We voted for them on April 29, 2009. And immediately after our vote on April 30th, it was front page news that Twinsburg was not closing. But on May 1st, we found out that our plant was, in fact, slated for closing. This had been planned all along, as indicated in the bankruptcy court documents. And talk about a lack of transparency. UAW Vice President General Holyfield was in charge of the Chrysler department at the time, and we were led to believe that he didn't know the plant was closing. But that seemed a little far-fetched. Back then, we didn't have language in the contract granting us the legal right to strike over our plant closings. But the closings did violate the language of the contract that said there was a moratorium on plant closings. And with Twinsburg, the The closing also violated the 2009 modifications that we had just approved. Now, we do have the right to strike over plant closings. We can take on the company, which we should have done in 2009, but 15 years later, the fight is still the right thing to do. There's no other way to make the company do what benefits us. They're not going to preserve our jobs out of the goodness of their hearts. We have to hit them in their wallets. Our fight is not just for us as Stellantis workers and retirees, but for all workers all over the world, even when sales are brisk. Excuse me. The bosses want more of what they call cost cutting. It's the rationale Stellantis is using against us and our union family members in Italy and elsewhere. It's the rationale Volkswagen is using to close plants in Germany. But I've said, and will say today, cost cutting is a nice way of saying throat cutting, and I mean our throats. We have to fight back. We don't have a choice, union siblings. Vote yes to approve the strike and make Stellantis keep the promise. Thank you.
All right, I just want to say thank you so much, Martha. That was a great little speech you delivered there. And I just want to, thank all of our panelists for being here and, for delivering their remarks. It's been amazing. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my fellow co-chair, Ben Hinsey, to take over the other half of the panel. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ben Hinsey. I work at Toledo Jeep. It's tough to be on your own. And so I would suggest, I'm going to ask you guys to consider joining UAWD. We are an organization of UAW members building a stronger union and holding our leaders accountable. UAWD members and staff are here to support and help you enforce your contract. Okay. We got strike. You can, if you're interested in this fight in particular, we have strike ready stickers that you can order, and also these flyers with a good FAQ about the strike and the Keep the Promise campaign. You just go to the link and order them. They're free. Next slide. Okay. And I also want to let everyone know about this training we have next week about protecting health and safety. It's a more interactive online thing, online training. But please join us for that.